War. War never changes. The streaming services waged war to gather slaves and wealth. Shaquille O'Neal built an empire from his lust for pizza and territory. Kanye shaped a battered 8-second Super Bowl commercial into an economic superpower. But war never changes. In the 21st century, war was still waged over the resources that could be acquired. Only this time, the spoils of war were also its weapons. Blue checkmarks and electric cars. For these resources, P. Diddy would invade Justin Bieber, Sony would annex Arrowhead, and the YouTube Commonwealth would dissolve into quarreling, bickering creators bent on controlling the last remaining resources on Earth. In 2077, the storm of World War had come again. In 2 brief hours, most of the planet was reduced to cinders, and from the ashes of nuclear devastation, a new civilization would struggle to arise. A few were able to reach the relative safety of the large underground vaults. Your family was part of that group that entered Vault 13. Imprisoned safely behind the large vault door under a mountain of stone, a generation has lived without knowledge of the outside world. But life in the vault was about to change. That was the actual script for the voiced intro that was performed by the devilish Ron Perlman in the original 1997 Fallout game developed by Interplay. I know, I was shocked too. Howdy ho all you BFDers, and welcome to another episode of Benign Fallout Death. Most of you BFDers probably knew this already, but the highly praised Fallout show released a few weeks ago, and boy oh boy, did I watch it. I am not a Fallout fan by trade, but I did play Fallout 4. I never beat it. For whatever reason, every time I got to the Minutemen Forts, boredom would gobble me up like a little feral ghoul. Up until that point in the game, I was always having a great time, but my monkey brain decides to stop. So take this entire video with a grain of salt.
Check it out. I've gotten word about a settlement that's being threatened by raiders.
Oh, what's the matter? What the hell is that?
Fallout has been popping off. Record numbers with dozens, maybe more, players returning to the disastrous Fallout 76, which is apparently good now. Although I wouldn't know, because every time I tried to play it, I would get extreme stuttering, and after I fixed that, my player character would not respond to movement buttons. Thanks, Bethesda.
Who's laughing now?
And they're also returning to all the other old games. Truth be told, I wasn't sure what kind of video I wanted to make concerning Fallout, but I knew I had to hop on that train and get those juicy views while I had the chance. And I might be a little behind. Speaking of, like and subscribe so Kyle doesn't quit YouTube. Thank you. I landed on sharing my experience with the first Fallout game. I don't know if this is OCD or something, maybe childhood trauma, but whenever there is a new recent game that is in a series with previous installments, I can't just play the most recent one. I have to play all the games that came before it, like BioShock and Metro, which I did do. As a result, I quickly hopped onto Steam and purchased all of the Fallout content for a very good price. Thanks, Bethesda. I smacked download, and after 4 seconds and 585 megabytes, I was ready to play the game. But I was not ready for the journey that I was about to go on. Fallout 1 is a different kind of game, not simply to today's common game, but also to the games of 1997, seeing releases like GoldenEye 007, Grand Theft Auto, Final Fantasy VII, and Worms 2. Fallout 1 was surrounded by games that now sell for $12,000. Not to mention the already established true RPG fandom of the 90s with games like Baldur's Gate, Pokemon, Earthbound, and Chrono Trigger. Most of these games were either medieval-like or some variation of high fantasy, but none were as grounded as the post-nuclear role-playing game Fallout. Beginning in 2077, nuclear bombs fell, a genuine possibility now and back in the 50s, which is Fallout's aesthetic inspiration, and led to the wasteland we see in 2161, when the game takes place. Every piece of fictionalized media requires something called the suspension of disbelief, which is a concept that means we, as an audience, accept the reality of a given world without too much questioning. Within that is a term called verisimilitude, which refers to the accuracy and likelihood of a reality or situation within a piece of media. We believe Gandalf can use magic because Tolkien weaved magic into the beginning of his world and has said world and characters interact with it in a way that shows that they also know about magic and that it's been around. But if Gandalf pulled out an AK-47 and started blasting folk, we, as an audience, would have a hard time believing that because it came out of nowhere and there is no evidence of technology on that level existing in the world. Also, did you know that Viggo Mortensen broke his toe in this shot? Yeah, I'm cool. Fallout 1 is heavily based on the possibly scientific aftermath of a nuclear apocalypse. Technology plays a very large role in the world, and although some of the designs may be a bit strange, all of the tech has a purpose and a design that works with this purpose. Take the Pip-Boy, for instance. It is essentially a smartphone, or smart watch, I guess. It goes on your wrist so it's easily reached and has a big screen so you can see, and a variety of knobs and gears that are there for ease of control. Some futuristic media may decide to simply make their tech a hologram, so there doesn't need to be any purposeful design, but not here. The MacGuffin of the story is your vault water chip is broken. Vaults need a water chip because most of the water on Earth is irradiated, because of the nuclear bombs and stuff. Water is a vital part of this new world, a vital part of human existence. This dilemma is a very real possibility. Without educated scientists to know how to fix tech from 2077, over 100 years ago, the vault will die. Fallout 1 uses a simple scientific problem to drive its plot, for the most part. The Brotherhood of Steel, a pseudo-religious organization, is bent on preserving technology of the old world, recognizing it as the savior that will bring back order and peace to this now devastated wasteland. There aren't that many genius doctors, and the knowledge that we did have, probably something akin to the internet, has suffered a worse fate than that of the Library of Alexandria. In a faction dedicated to the pursuit of preserving technology, there would be people who seek out old world power because it's greater than anything someone without its knowledge could create. One of the more far-fetched ideas of Fallout is the super mutant and the ghouls, disgusting creatures both parties are, as well as survivors. Some of them the entire 100 plus years since the initial nuclear fallout. They have been mutated in strange ways. The ghouls have had what seems to be all of their flesh either ripped off or looking like
an avocado. Had sex with an older, more disgusting avocado.
The super mutants are Hulk, but with a power decrease, like Superman eating Red Robin, or whatever he's weak to that's not kryptonite. This is the most fantastical thing about this game, and yet it still holds a solid standing in reality. From the effects of Chernobyl, we know that some mutations can occur from prolonged exposure to radiation. A lot of times it is cancer, but in some cases it is other malformations. Ghouls were exposed to massive amounts of radiation, but were not afflicted by the actual bombing. Any survivors of Chernobyl were not in the vicinity of the experience of those large doses, so we don't know exactly what the effects would be in real life. That being said, ghouls are gross. These super mutants were lab rats created through genetic experimentation by the government with a substance known as FEV, or Forced Evolutionary Virus. Imagine a vat of green goo that was actually the Captain America serum, but also had the negative side effects of the Tim Roth radiation, and you get super mutants. Again, not horribly far-fetched given things like Project MK Ultra. The invisible bad guys of the Fallout universe were using FEV pre-war with prime subjects, but after the nuclear exposure, most of those prime candidates were no longer prime. Instead, invisible bad guys had to resort to using irradiated individuals, resulting in simple Jack Hulk.
There's a lot of earning potential with the end of the world.
This subplot ties more into the political and sociological struggles in the game, which I could talk about, but there are plenty of videos on that, so instead, I'll talk about what makes up the meat of the game. Fallout 1 isn't revolutionary in any way for its gameplay. Everything is context-based for the most part. There's an elevator shaft that seems like you could tie a rope to it and climb down. So you find a rope and climb down. Then you discover another elevator shaft that looks like you can climb down, so you grab another rope and climb down. And then within that is another elevator shaft, which seems like you can climb down. So you grab another rope and climb down. Easier said than done in this game, considering that you need like 4 ropes to get to the bottom of the first real dungeon. The big picture of Fallout 1, or Fallout in general, is not that complicated. As I stated previously, invisible bad guys want money, which led to corruption, which led to nuclear fallout. The big picture, or the main plot, besides the water chip, is the Master, who wants diminutive control over the Master race. The super mutants. Nothing special because we've seen it before, but also you can't not interact with him to finish the game. Either you join him or you don't. There's 2 options. Where the game starts to get amazing, though, is all the different choices you can make along the way. Every settlement or area you can visit has a plot of its own, an ecosystem of its own. Every NPC that you can interact with, besides just bartering, has individual consequences based not only on how you interact with them, but how you interact with the world at large. In Junktown, one of these semi-early locations, there is a mayor named Killian Darkwater. He asks if you can find evidence to incriminate a crime lord known as Gizmo. He gives you a bug and a tape recorder, which provides you with 2 different ways to get a confession of shady dealings. You can decide not to help. You can also let an assassin kill Killian, or you can take matters into your own hands and kill Gizmo, like I did. Each of these paths present different choices and different outcomes. Each one of them requires different skills and playstyles. And even more alternatively, you can opt to help Gizmo get rid of Killian. No matter what you do, even if you do nothing, something changes in Junktown. When I did the quest, I forgot to put a bug on Gizmo, and I forgot to have the tape recorder in my active inventory, so I tried to back out of the dialogue, which resulted in Gizmo not talking to me anymore. I ended up, after the fact, realizing that I could pickpocket into Gizmo's inventory and plant the bug on him, but that did nothing, supposedly? I then had no choice to kill him, so I did, ridding Junktown of that rapscallion. I went back to Killian to see what would happen, and apparently the bug worked, and I finished the quest. Killian thanked me, and I was on my way. As I was leaving Junktown, the guard told me I wasn't welcome back, which wouldn't be the last time I heard that for saving the day.
I'm sorry. You're a hero, and you have to leave.
Another amazing inclusion of this mechanic is at the Mariposa military base near the end of the game. There are a lot of ways which you can approach this portion, but I'm only going to cover what I did. So back in the hub, I was doing some shopping, and an NPC named Mitch had some cool gadgets, one of them being a radio. Not knowing what it was for, I spent a crap ton of caps on it and acquired it for my greedy little self. Fast forward about 9 or so hours, and there I was. As far as I can tell, the radio only has 2 functions, both of them being here at the Mariposa military base. Anywhere else, and it just gives off static. But here, I was able to distract the super mutant guards patrolling outside so that I could easily infiltrate the base. In a modern game, for the most part, you would be given options on how you can progress forward in a quest, with marks and objective notifications, but here, I had to rely on my instinct and greed. There are other Fallout videos, but each one, if they are reflecting on their experience, will be different. You will learn about a different way to play the game, and not just how you attack, or what abilities you have, or your stats, but literally what happens in the game. There is a major subplot that has hefty implications on the story and the world of the first game that you can completely miss based on what is happening in the world outside your player character. Fallout 1 is full of intricacy and depth that was a staple of its era, but extended beyond its scope because it wasn't just another RPG. It was a post-nuclear role-playing game, Fallout. To many of you, to most of you probably, it would seem like I enjoyed the game. And the truth is, well, I kinda did, but mostly, I didn't. I know, this is what gamers want, I think. The amount of choice and freedom you have is awesome. That's how games should be. And part of me agrees, and part of me doesn't. Among my favorite games are God of War 2018, The Witcher 3, and Last of Us Part 2. All three of which are pretty heavily narrative-based games, and you play the role of an assigned character. In Fallout, the movement and combat were just outdated, and that's fair given that it's from 1997. There has never been a game where I died to the first enemy so many times, not even Dark Souls. The dependency on having multiple save files was crushing, as there were so many times where you could literally hard lock yourself out of finishing the game. I'm not the kind of person that likes to keep multiple save files, so when I was dragged down to the labs in Mariposa after interacting with Henry, whatever the fart his name is, I got stuck and had to start over. When I went to that crater place down south, I could never find any Radaway, and the doctors would never heal me of the radiation I did have, so I just went. And when I was done there, whenever I would try to leave, I would just die. For everything Fallout does right, it also has some major issues for me as a gamer. Again, for all the people who are attacking me right now in the comments, thank you for the engagement. I think Fallout 1 is a phenomenal game, and I think most people would agree, but for my iPad kid brain, there wasn't enough Cocomelon or Skibbity Toilet. Also, talk about a downer ending. I thought that maybe if I made this video, war might change. It seems I was wrong. I don't have much else to say about this game that isn't details about my game experience or philosophical musings, so instead, I'm just going to end the video. If you have a PC and are a Fallout fan, you should definitely check this one out. It's a relatively quick game that you could get done in about 9 hours, give or take a few restarts. If you want to see more Fallout videos, let us know in the comments below. I've played Fallout 4, as I said earlier, and have watched the show, so I'd love to do a video on one of those. Also, comment if you think Chris looks like Lucy, or vice versa, whatever floats your boat. But with all that said, I'm Jake and have been since at least last Thursday, and I'll catch you in the next one.